I don't want to say that I'm glad to see crypto people under investigation, but I am glad to see crypto fraudsters under investigation. There is a giant chasm between people who run afoul of some misguided or outdated regulation, doing normal, honest crypto things, and people who commit theft or fraud. If you use deceit, trickery, theft, or lies to separate people from their money, the crypto community shouldn't feel bad for you when you get arrested. There's no magical characteristic of crypto that means it's okay to trick people out of their money. Hiding it under half a dozen layers of abstraction also doesn't absolve you. It's a pretty simple formula. Do value for value transactions with people all you want, but trick people out of their money, and you'll only have yourself to blame when you end up behind bars. Ready? Let's go. Today, we are going to discuss the U.S. Department of Justice investigation into the two brothers who allegedly faked the total value locked on Solana, BlackRock and Goldman making huge layoffs while Binance says it's going on a giant hiring spree, and an interesting thread regarding some large movements of MELD tokens. If you immediately notice that the policeman's hand on the right side of the screen seems to have some kind of a very strange index thumb, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. You might remember a video quite a ways back on this channel where we talked about this guy, Ian Macalinao, and his brother Dylan. They were alleged to have built a bunch of protocols on Solana that double and triple counted all of the assets in the protocols to inflate the total value locked. Now, fast forward quite a ways, and we get this headline today. Justice Department probing Saber Labs founders over Solana-based projects, according to sources. The investigation follows a CoinDesk expose that showed Ian and Dylan Macalinao used a web of 11 pseudonymous identities to build an ecosystem of interlocking financial products around Saber. So this is where I think some people might have gotten confused back when this first blew up and everybody realized what they were doing. People were sort of like, in the spirit of code is law, although since then we've subsequently found out that code is definitely not law. People were in that spirit, though. People were sort of like, well, if they figured out a way to game the whole TVL thing, I mean, maybe they should be applauded for their cleverness. But there was more than that. They did actually trick people. So this article says the U.S. Department of Justice is investigating the two brothers behind Solana stablecoin exchange Saber Labs. The investigation follows this CoinDesk report that the Macalinao brothers used a web of 11 pseudonymous identities to build an ecosystem of interlocking financial products that double and triple counted crypto deposits by passing tokens between themselves. Their effort boosted a key growth metric for Solana by billions of dollars during the height of the bull market. The metric, so this is something that Ian apparently wrote. Ian allegedly wrote this in some blog post that CoinDesk was able to obtain. The metric to optimize for in summer 21 was total value locked. TVL can only count if protocols are built separately. So I devised a scheme. Notice he uses the appropriate word here, scheme. I devised a scheme to maximize Solana's TVL. I would build protocols that stack on top of each other such that a dollar could be counted several times. I know what you're thinking. If you just executed that scheme, why would you ever put that in writing anywhere? I mean, obviously, CoinDesk says they were able to get a hold of this never published blog post somehow. So obviously, he put it somewhere where someone could find it and give it to CoinDesk somehow. Why would you ever write that down? We see this over and over again in crypto. The people who perpetrate these kinds of schemes always seem to think that the long arm of the law, for some unknown reason, can never reach them. It's just sort of like, because crypto. Why do you think you're not going to get investigated and potentially arrested over this? Because crypto. Somehow that's a magical shield to law enforcement. The article says investigators are seeking information on yield farming app Sunny Aggregator as well as Casio, a stablecoin project that lost millions of dollars in a March hack. Ian secretly wrote the code for both projects using pseudonymous identities. He also wrote, allegedly, if an ecosystem is all built by a few people, it does not look as authentic. I wanted to make it look like a lot of people were building on our protocol rather than ship 20 plus disjointed programs as one person. What's being described here is not just a clever way to game the total value lock stats on DeFi Llama. What's being described here is someone using deceit and trickery to get people to put their assets into protocols based on the idea that, in the words of this quote, a lot of people were building on the protocol instead of just two brothers. Why would people invest in a protocol that has a lot of people building on it instead of just a bunch of protocols all being built by the same two brothers? Because they want to avoid exactly what happened. Exactly what happened here was a stablecoin project that lost millions of dollars in a hack. One of the benefits of having a lot of people building on a protocol is that you hope there's a greater probability that there aren't big exploitable bugs in the protocol that allow for multi-million dollar hacks. You hope that if a protocol was built by a dedicated team, that they might have done a better job and there wouldn't be hacks. If a whole bunch of protocols are all built by the same two brothers, maybe simultaneously, maybe back to back to back, that probably fewer hours were put into each of those protocols. And maybe a lot of corners were cut. Maybe some of those corners result in exploitable code that might end up in a hack just like this. But Ian and his brother, allegedly, according to all this, didn't want people to come to that conclusion. They didn't want them to come to that, at the time, possible conclusion, what turned out to be probably an accurate prediction, since that's exactly what happened. They didn't want people to have that information because they might have decided, hey, not enough people have looked at these projects. Not enough people were building on these projects. Not enough people were involved in this. If two brothers did this, they might have cut some corners. They didn't want people to have that information, so they come to that, what turned out to be an accurate prediction based on that information. Instead, they wanted people to think there were teams of people devoted to these projects. That's deceit and trickery. These two brothers probably don't think they did anything wrong, but look at the last paragraph in this article. Sunny and Casio, two projects whose tokens have flatlined, are all but dead. Their Discord servers are full of angry messages from users asking where the developers have gone. It's unclear from this article whether the people in the Discord server who wrote those messages ever even realized that there wasn't some devoted team of people building on the protocol. It was just two brothers who tricked everybody and got a bunch of people to part with their money. So I think everybody will agree that the allegations here represent an unacceptable level of fraud. But how do we prevent this on a practical level? I think we just have to demand a certain level of transparency from any project that wants us to deposit our assets. If they're asking you to deposit your assets in any way in their project, their platform, their protocol, they should be willing to get all of their developers together, get their team together on a Twitter space or a YouTube video or something, at least to prove that they're living, breathing, separate human beings. That shouldn't be too much to ask. If they can't get their team on a Twitter space, then maybe you shouldn't be depositing your assets with them. One final note, people should remember what this article points out here. Their effort boosted a key growth metric for Solana by billions of dollars during the height of the bull market. And according to Ian, juiced the price of Sol, the native token of the Solana network. Here's an interesting current juxtaposition between the traditional finance world and crypto. So here's a Barron's article. The title is Goldman Sachs may cut more than 3,000 jobs this week. So Goldman's getting rid of, possibly getting rid of 3,000 employees this week. This, in my experience, is nothing new for Goldman. I definitely know multiple people who have worked for Goldman and have ended up getting let go conveniently always when economic times are not looking good. But we can do even better than Goldman. Here's an article that says the biggest asset manager in the world is laying off employees. BlackRock plans to cut 500 workers after last year's market downturn. If you still think that 2023 is going to be a good year, be aware that traditional finance may not agree with you. Here's the weird part. Binance says they're going on a hiring spree. Goldman, BlackRock, and everybody else in crypto seems to be engaged in layoffs or laying employees off as fast as they can. Seems like it, anyways. Binance is going on a hiring spree. This article is called Crypto Exchange Binance Plans 15 to 30% Hiring Spree in 2023, even as rivals slash jobs. Look at this. They are always using the most maniacal looking pictures of CZ. You can tell that somebody's got it in for CZ because every mainstream media article about him, they try to use pictures where he looks like a well-fed Skeletor. Dude looks like Skeletor saw a few mills. These are like terrible pictures of CZ, very unflattering. The article says Binance is planning a hiring spree, taking somewhat of a contrarian view as crypto firms lay off huge swaths. Rival exchanges have been forced to cut large parts of their workforce after nearly 1.4 trillion was wiped off the crypto market in 2022. CZ said Binance needs to get the company well organized. And if you come down here, they sort of lay out how big the layoffs have been with other companies. In November, Kraken announced it was laying off 30% of its staff. This year, Huobi and Coinbase said they would cut 20% of their workforce. That was the second round of job cuts for Coinbase in the last year. You have to ask yourself why Binance is going on a hiring spree when everybody else in crypto and in TradFi is engaged in layoffs. And I can think of two possible explanations. It could be what they kind of indicate in this article right here. It says CZ said Binance needs to get the company well organized ahead of the next crypto bull run. And then they have a quote, "We will continue to build and hopefully we will ramp up again before the next bull market." So it could just be longer term planning. Maybe the rest of these firms are sort of just planning for the next couple of years. Maybe he's looking ahead to that late 2024, 2025, 2026 period when some people think we will be back in the good times in crypto. It could also be related to some of this criticism. It seems like there's a lot of criticism labeled or leveled at Binance lately, and I've reported it on this channel. People are asking questions about the backing of Binance-related stablecoins. People are asking questions about how interested regulators are in Binance. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, it seems like, around Binance right now. Maybe CZ is just putting up a strong front to reassure everyone that Binance's brightest days are ahead of it and not behind it. In Cardano Island news, Virtua made some updates and fixes to the cribs. So they made these bug fixes. You can now use the Summit themed cribs. That was something that I noticed when they launched the cribs recently. And they also made these improvements right here, including better scaling of assets so that assets can be larger. To me, one of the most interesting things coming up in Cardano is Mithril, and IOHK has a brand new article on their website all about what's coming with Mithril. I think this little punch list right here is pretty interesting and sums up some of the things that I'm the most excited for. Fast bootstrapping of the full node, trustless light wallets, and efficient voting systems. They say Mithril enables the establishment of a highly reliable and fast voting system in governance use cases. I think that's going to be huge for Voltaire, obviously. Trustless light wallets. Light wallets don't need to rely on a third party to sync blockchain history. The Mithril protocol enables fast synchronization while relying on Cardano's main chain security properties. This is something I've missed, something that I would have loved to have the entire time I've been in crypto. I think I've used light wallets as long as light wallets have really existed in crypto. And the whole time in the back of my mind, I've always known it's not great that I'm relying on some third party to tell me the status of the blockchain here. It would be great if I could have the light wallet, not the full node wallet, have the light wallet with its ease of use and not have to trust this third party because let's face it, one of the centerpieces of crypto is trustlessness. I'm super excited. We're going to get that with Mithril. Can't wait to see it. Finally, here's a thread from Tap Tools that has some people in the Cardano ecosystem a little bit alarmed. So I'm not going to make any assertions based on what's presented here, and I'm not making any statements of fact about any project. I'm just reading a thread written by Tap Tools. So this thread says, a couple large cells of MELD uncovered some interesting things. Since 9/21/2022, this address has sold 1.24 million ADA worth of MELD and has never purchased any. The wallet has received anywhere between 3 to 7 million MELD per month since September 2022. Obviously, we're talking about large amounts of MELD here. The wallet has two associated addresses that also have a history of selling MELD without having purchased any, which have sold a combined 1.04 million ADA worth of MELD. Where did the tokens come from? From the looks of it, a smart contract for vesting. So you can see where this is going. After the most recent vesting period, the UTXO containing the tokens to be vested still contains 82.125 million MELD, currently valued at 5.65 million ADA. So we're talking about a lot of MELD. Do what you would like with this information. So obviously, people had some strong reactions to this. Some people thought maybe this is just payroll. Other people thought that these amounts weren't really problematic. Other people had negative reactions. It looks like some people were maybe reaching out to MELD to get their side of all this. But mainly when I look at threads like this, I'm glad we have people in the Cardano ecosystem who are looking so closely at these kinds of things, because this will only spur more transparency. And this, when things are going awry, not saying that's happening here, but when things are actually going awry, it'll be great if we have a lot of people in the ecosystem doing exactly this, looking at these on-chain transactions and asking all these kinds of questions. I think this is how we prevent our ecosystem from being full of all the same robbery forest, misadventure, fraud type events that we see on a lot of other blockchains. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.